Noted.
Councillor Raj Doshi, we are about to start. We now have the live stream ready. We have also other members in the room as well as officers from the city and applicants. I will officially open today's meeting at 9:31 a.m. and I would like to acknowledge we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respects to elders past and present and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. This meeting will be run in accordance with the DAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development DAP Regulations 2011. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A, Planning and Development DAP Regulations 2011. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information for them. At today's meeting, we have two parts to our meeting. Part B, the first part, is City of Perth. The members present for the meeting is to my furthest left is Deputy Mayor Bruce Reynolds. To adjoining the Deputy Mayor, we have John Syme, Specialist Member. To my immediate left, we have Clayton Heim, Deputy Presiding Member. Online, we have Councillor Raj Doshi from City of Perth. My name is Francesca Lafanti, Presiding Member. We have a number of apologies for today's meeting and I won't go through those. We also have in the room with us today officers from the City of Perth, and I will mention those when we get to that point, and we will be dealing with both parts and separate council members. Members, are there any leave of absence? Sorry, there's no members on leave of absence. The minutes for this meeting will be available on the website. Members, can I have a show of hands who considered all matters relating to Part B and in the documents relating to the referred additional material? That is unanimous for the minute taker. We have one disclosure of interest in relation to the item on today's meeting for the City of Perth. It is listed in the agenda and that member, Councillor Liam Gobbett, is not taking part in today's meeting. Members, are there any disclosures of interest for today's meeting?
No.
Thank you. That is nil for minute taker. And I'm assuming from both councillors in the room, this matter did not go to a council meeting?
No, it did not, no.
Thank you. We will now move forward to our application, our Form 1 application, item 3.1 at Kensington Street, East Perth. We have two presenters here, Mr. Peter Simpson from PTS Town Planning and Mr. Warren Phillips from St Bart's. We also have officers in the room, Amy Groom and Julia Kingsbury from the City of Perth. I'll first hand over to officers in the order that they appear here. You can change order should you wish. As you are aware, in accordance with the DAP Standing Orders 2024, Clause 4.8.2, presentations are limited to 3 minutes. At the conclusion of your presentation, we will go to questions from panel members and then we will continue on with the presentations. Handing over to yourself, Mr. Peter Simpson.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present. With me I have Warren Phillips from St Bart's and Nick Preston from Odd Preston, if there's any architectural questions. This is obviously the second part of the development of the St Bart's site in East Perth. This is an independent development, so it stands on its own. However, as you'll see from the design, it's been integrated in terms of the architectural design, the Indigenous engagement, and also the beneficial outcome of having St Bart's office directly adjacent to the site to provide services and facilities for the proposed residents. So we obviously support the application before you. We have requested a change to Advice Note 2. Reason being for this is Advice Note 2 is very specific in terms of not allowing anything. If you've been out on site or you've seen it on your Google Maps, you'll notice that the tree canopies actually are quite close together, and I doubt we'll be able to get a truck or a crane through the gaps in the trees, so they might need some pruning. I have discussed this with the city and I understand that they may have some additional amendment to that advice note. So this involves construction of 56 social housing single bedroom dwellings to be operated by St Bart's. It adopts the same principles as the RAC that we considered 2-3 weeks ago. The design was presented to the design review panel both at the same time. The reason there's a minor change in terms of the time frame is that we had to address two issues that were quite complex to overcome for this one, which was the retention of the street tree, and we had to therefore amend the access into the site, and now you'll see it comes through under the building. And a second matter we had to address was we needed to provide a greater front setback, which we have done. So that was the only reason why it was different in terms of timing. Generally, the development's compliant with the planning framework. We note that we're seeing a height variation. I'm not going to go into detail because we've discussed that in quite a lot of detail at the last meeting. And we are seeking a small setback variation to the eastern boundary. The other matter that was raised last time, which we just want to touch on and Warren will address, is the car parking. Obviously, this site is well located to services, public transport and a train station near a cat bus facility. The assessment is based on the Perth parking policy, which has a minimum of 0 and a maximum number. And we're providing 4 bays at the rear of the site for the development. So we're seeking his support for the application. I might just hand over to Warren and he'll just sort of give an indication from his experience with his existing accommodation facilities on the demand for car parking.
Yeah, thank you everyone for the opportunity to present. St Bart's, as some people would know, operates from Lime Street at the moment. We have, and that facility will continue. That has transitional housing, homeless aged care, as well as 54 social housing units, and we operate that without any parking for residents. Any staff parking is actually in the City of Perth car park, which is next to the building. We have looked at, I guess, the new proposal in Kensington Street in terms of our proposal with tenants, and essentially car ownership is very low with social housing tenants. Cost of car ownership is just generally outside of their capacity. We do have to balance, I guess, the fact that we have a small tenancy on the ground floor that we envisage perhaps would be a social enterprise, and we'd like to provide at least a car bay for that. We also want to, I guess, have the ability to have a disabled car bay on site. We did have to negotiate with the state government partner. We have such a limited amount of parking, so we don't believe that we could go out to 0. We have sort of, I guess, balanced having that normal number of car bays with the cost of providing additional car bays, which would be probably very difficult to accommodate within budget. But our experience, I guess, at Lime Street is that being next to the train station and being in such a great location with amenity really at the doorstep, that we believe the facility is appropriate as it is without the amount of resident parking that you might see in other locations.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's our submission.
Thank you. Submission has been concluded. Members, do you have any questions? I will first go to Councillor Raj Doshi online. Do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. So again, similarly to the last application, my concerns heavily are based around this parking issue. I appreciate and respect what Warren said, and I guess Lime Street is probably a different perspective in terms of this location. Kensington Street obviously has the high-rise residentials at the very bottom near Claysbrook. It also has a lot of commercial spaces. It's got the garage. The PTA being the biggest one, that area already struggles with over 1,000 PTA staff parking their cars on the streets. The cat bus terminus is also based on Kensington Street. So I guess the only concern I have is that residents, I appreciate that the demographic that will be using the facility as a home may not have cars. However, there'll be support workers, staff, visitors to the retail space that will need those areas to park because we don't have anything close by. So I guess my question would be, more from the city's perspective, that have we looked at restricting maybe residential parking permits for that space? Are we looking at things like car share? And what sort of the broader parking management plan in terms of this? Because I can see it being a significant issue in terms of it already being a problem with the PTA being across the road. This will just add to that. So that's my question, please.
Thank you. Raj, is your question specifically to the officers or to the applicant?
Yeah, I was trying to like sort of decipher which one. I think, I guess in terms of the applicant, my question is, what conversations have taken place? I appreciate that our allowance is 0 to maximum, but what considerations have been given outside of the development happening in the 4 bays, the potential parking issues outside of that, and then to the city, it would be how are we going to address that parking management plan?
Thank you. We'll first go to the applicant for a response,
Yes,
and then we'll move over to the city for a response.
Thank you.
In terms of staff parking, obviously the benefit of this development is we have the site directly adjacent, which provides its bays for the staff of St. Bart's. So realistically, and there's a pedestrian gate that goes through between 2 sites. So really from a staff point of view, they will be located on that site. And there is a management office where staff will be able to go from the site to meet with residents on the social housing site. So from a staff point of view, we think it's fine. From a retail point of view, we understand, I suppose, the comment. We don't expect it to actually be a normal retail tenancy. We don't expect there'll be a demand for it. If you've gone out to that site and that location, most of the commercial uses aren't sort of high traffic generating, except for probably the pub down the road. We probably expect it to be more a social enterprise, something associated with St. Bart's, or as a worst case outcome, not a worst case, but another outcome could be a communal facility for the residents itself. So we're not completely sure in terms of how that retail space will function. I suppose just hand over to Warren just to talk about his experience in terms of the Lime Street and the potential for visitors.
Yeah, so this is social housing, so long-term permanent accommodation for tenants as opposed to supported transitional housing, which we also operate. So there isn't going to be significant staff. It's likely a tenancy officer would be visiting the building from time to time as opposed to a range of support services that you would normally see around transitional housing. We also, I guess, have that experience that the cohort, in the city location, tend to rely on scooters and bicycles, and we've accommodated those obviously in the building. We don't see unfortunately, a lot of visitors to our social housing cohort. And this is probably just the nature of they're often people that are disconnected from family and friends. We I guess have that experience with transitional housing that was on the site previously that had the same number of car bays. We also have Lime Street, which operates without parking permits, and we haven't caused any issues. I don't feel that the facility is going to necessarily provide a lot of pressure on the local street parking personally.
Thank you. And for the second part of the question, we'll move to city officers at this junction as it's in the same conversation. Would you like to respond to the second element?
Thank you, Presiding Member. I suppose in terms of the city's assessment on car parking, as detailed in our report, we've considered it against the requirements of the Perth parking policy, which generally prescribe a maximum requirement rather than a minimum requirement because of the specialised nature of this accommodation. Notwithstanding that, we have considered the potential demand for car parking as a result of this facility. And with an understanding of how St. Bart's manage and operate their facilities, we're satisfied that there won't be a huge demand for on-site parking. Again, considering parking requirements for staff that might visit the site and potentially visitors, we believe that the 4 bays should hopefully be sufficient. And we also note that there's bicycle parking within the facility, and there's multiple opportunities for on-street, off-street parking in the location, and public transport is sort of adequately provided and accommodated for in close proximity to the site. I suppose if the panel is concerned about the ongoing management, I suppose just before jumping to that, I'm not 100% sure in regards to the city's position on residential parking bays in this location, and for the type of development that is proposed. It's generally a separate process that will be given consideration. If the panel is concerned about the management of parking on the site, there might be an opportunity to amend Condition 8, which is a requirement for a service and delivery access plan. It could include then an amendment to include a parking management component to that, which then could be to the city's satisfaction, and we could review that as the St Bart's facility operates. So our planning assessment is that the provision of on-site parking is adequate, and we don't believe it will have a detrimental impact on the parking facilities in the amenity of the locality.
Thank you. Back to yourself, Councillor Raj Doshi. Do you have any other questions?
No, thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you. Members in the room, do you have any questions to the applicant?
No, I'm satisfied, thank you.
Yes, Member Clayton-Hine.
I presume, Peter, that when the units are being offered to prospective tenants, that there'll be some clause in there that they note or know that there is no parking available. So that they're coming into the situation knowing full well.
Yes.
Okay, that's right.
Any further questions from members? If there are no further questions, a thank you to applicant. We move to city officers. If you'd like to make some comment, as well as if you could make comment on the query regarding advice note 2.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I won't go over the details of the proposal that are in the RAR and have been mentioned again by the applicant. I suppose just importantly to note, firstly, that the city has considered this as a separate application to the proposal to the south. It was considered and approved by the DAP a few weeks ago, just to confirm that we've assessed this in isolation, and it's been run through an independent assessment process. So this one is located to the north of the approved 7-storey aged care. The specific housing development was advertised to the community, where it was largely received support. 9 of 11 submissions supported the proposal. There were 2 submissions that raised some concerns about the potential impact on property values as well as the residential amenity in the area. And the city notes that while important to the owners in the area, property values are not a consideration that we can take into account in regards to the planning assessment. In regards to the potential for adverse amenity impacts from this facility, we note that St Bart's have operated facilities in this location for a period of time, for a long time. And they have done so successfully. We haven't got any evidence to suggest that they haven't been other than well managed by St Bart's. And through our process too, St Bart's also confirmed that they have well established processes and procedures in place to manage the new facility. And as mentioned by the applicant, the adjoining development to the south has more of an on-site presence for staff, which will assist in the property as well. In regards to the built form, it's largely compliant with the planning framework for the city. As noted, there is a height variation similar to the previous approval. The city's assessment of this, we've looked at obviously what the city's local planning strategy is prescribing as a future character for this area, and it's largely consistent with that medium scale residential development that's desirable in this area. But we've also looked at it in its current context and under the current framework. We're satisfied that the design has been carefully considered to minimise any potential amenity impacts, whether that's by bulk and scale overshadowing, overlooking to adjoining properties existing and proposed and approved in the area. and we're satisfied that those potential impacts have been minimised and is acceptable. As mentioned, the ground floor has been redesigned. The main change was to retain a significant street tree. So the city is satisfied that those amendments have responded to our concerns, and they've also addressed the matters that were raised by the design review panel that could be achieved without having a negative or detrimental impact on the operation of the facility. So on the basis of our assessment, the city supports the proposal subject to conditions that are largely standard. In regards to advice note 2, as noted, there was sort of ongoing negotiations through the assessment process in regards to the retention of the street tree, and we were pleased with the outcome on that. It's a fairly standard advice note in regards to pruning trees for construction works, but we do note that it kind of sounds absolute, I suppose. So we are open to amending the advice note to, I suppose, incorporate some words that will state that the trees cannot be pruned, relocated or removed without prior approval of the city. So my proposal would be that after the sentence, the city advises the existing street trees on Kensington Street will not be permitted to be pruned, relocated or removed to accommodate construction works at the site. Insert the words without prior approval of the city, with the amenity value of the trees to be included in any works bond associated with any building permit issued by the city. And we hope that provides clarification in terms of a process to seek the city's approval to prune the trees should they be needed to facilitate construction on the site.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions to city officers? Or first go to Raj Doshi online. Do you have any questions?
No, presiding member.
Thank you. Members in the room, do you have any questions to city officers? If there are no questions to city officers, we will now move back to the agenda. There is a recommendation at the beginning of the agenda. It's a recommendation for some commentary raised in relation to one of the advice notes. I will go to panel members. Is there a mover of the recommendation as contained at the beginning of the RA? It is moved by Member Deputy Lord Mayor Bruce Reynolds. Is there a seconder? It is seconded, Member Raj Doshi. Would the mover like to speak to the item?
Just briefly, look, having read through the application, it's highly compliant, it's considered, and in regards to the city's feedback and suggestions, the applicant's been very flexible, and that is evident in the way that the applicant has responded. I have read the supports and objections, obviously, and understand that those points of view. But in regards to St Bart's, as it says here, bringing both credibility and capability sector, and it is a sector that how we support our most vulnerable as a community defines us, and we know that we need more support for those who are in vulnerable sort of circumstances. So with all that considered, I'm certainly happy to move the approval.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion on the table?
Yes, thank you, through you, presiding member. St Bart's is a great organisation. You already have a strong presence and reputation that you've built here in East Perth and further afield. I think the development is outstanding in terms of for the social housing element, but also the great links with the fact that the Brown Street development that we talked about a couple of weeks ago being approved as well. Particularly the sustainability measures that you've put in place with the solar and the design and the water sensitive landscaping, I particularly like. Well done, thank you, and look forward to seeing something like this very soon.
Thank you. Members, are there any other speakers on the motion? Member Clayton Heim.
Thank you. Like its cousin in Brown Street, this is a well-designed and much-needed development for the city. While there are some features that the design review panel requested or would like to have seen addressed, the reasons provided by the applicant are understood and can be supported. proposed development still has very good street presence and provides great amenity for the future occupants. So from that point of view, I think you've done an exceptional job there. I've noted the community concerns, and I don't believe they can be really supported. The quality of the development and the operator and the conditions proposed really will overcome any of those concerns. There are a couple of variations that have been sought, and while the building height is a major variation, I can support it. It aligns with the draft character LPP, which, although not yet advertised, is clearly the intent for the future of the city there. In any event, the 8-storey building doesn't exceed the current plot ratio maximum, and it doesn't unduly impact the locality of the streetscape when the height and setbacks are assessed against the variation provisions of the CPS2 and clause 67 of the deemed provisions. I accept that it is appropriate to exercise discretion in this regard, and I fully support the proposal as proposed. I would like to recommend or propose an amendment to Advice Note 2, in line with the city's comments, so it's adding the words after works at the site without prior approval of the city.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for Amendment 1? It is seconded. Member John Syme. To speak further. In that
it just provides, although advice notes really don't mean a lot, it does provide some flexibility for the applicant.
Thank you. Would the seconder to Amendment 1?
Yes, I agree. Look, I think it's important that the has flexibility on this. This is a tight site. It's a difficult area to do any working around Perth. So I think some sensible arrangement which allows that construction to go ahead is important.
Is there any other speakers on Amendment 1? No?
Can I just...
We're just dealing with Amendment 1 at this point.
Right, okay, sorry, no.
Thank you. I will speak to Amendment 1. I agree with the minor change. I support the clarity being provided to the applicant, and I understand the city's intention of maintaining the tree and requiring a sense of approval, given that it's on the street itself, and there'll be sensitivities around ensuring that the extent of pruning relates to works as opposed to a more substantial pruning that could impact the amenity of the area. So I agree with the intention and arrangements for both parties. Are there any other speakers on Amendment 1? If not, we move to the mover for right of reply on Amendment 1. Members, we are going to the vote on Amendment 1, which is a modification to Advice Note 2. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously for the minute taker. Moving back to yourself, Member Clayton.
Just to wind up on the parking issue, I understand the comments that have been made or the inferences in the questions being posed. However, this is in a city, and in a city, within a city comes a lack of parking or other requirements to find your way in and out of the city if there is no parking. So while a car parking management plan might assist, I think, given the response from the applicant regarding advising prospective tenants that there is no parking, they'll need to be accommodated on that basis. So I don't see a need for any further amendment there, just a realisation that this is the situation you have in a city. But I fully support the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members who wish to speak? Yes, Member John Syme.
Yes, thank you. Look, I'll be fairly brief. I think the comments that Hyam has just said are good ones. I think regarding parking, I accept the evidence that Mr. Barts has given that the car parking ownership is very low for their residents, and I think that's true. I think, as an observation, there's actually not a real parking problem around East Perth. It's particularly well managed by the city, I think. There are a range of parking parking things around the place. There are certainly resident parking permits are available reasonably. We get a lot of people around there on football days and so on. It is a situation which is well known and managed very well. So I don't think any additional parking demand from here is going to make any difference at all. I think the major parking demand in this area is probably the axe throwing facility down the road, which is probably the one that actually probably generates more parking than anything else. And that's probably pretty much out of hours. So I don't think that any of this is going to be a room. Certainly, I suspect that the retail shop front itself won't have a big parking demand at all. The idea of height, I think we addressed last time. It is an area which has got shown height buildings of this type of height. Not only have we approved to place out in Brown Street, but also across the road in Plain Street, there are a couple of buildings of this height. So I don't think that this is out of place at all. And finally, I think I just repeat what I said last time. I think St Bart's is a particularly good neighbour in East Perth. And I think this was not only a welcome and important facility to have for the target group that they have of residents, but also a welcome for the community as well.
Thank you. I will speak to the motion. I'm supportive of the proposal. From my perspective, a lot has already been said about the form and scale, and I'm supportive of that in its local context. Likewise, in relation to parking in the area, given that it forms part of the inner city area, the expectation for parking for visitors and residents is very different than you would expect in an outer area. Transportation is exceptional in that area, as is essentially the rest of the central Perth area. I have given due regard to the submissions, and I do understand the concerns raised. They are concerns that I have heard in the past in relation to both property values and amenity. And whilst I understand those concerns in this particular instance, the proposal is well designed, interacts with the street, the architecture is of good architecture with detailed materials. The inclusion of ground floor interactive uses with the street is a positive, and whilst I note the comments that have been provided today by the applicant about potential, how that potential ground level retail tenancy may operate, my understanding from the material is that will retain an interactive element to the street and therefore enhance both street interaction and visibility as well as safety. In terms of the concerns about amenity issues, from my perspective, from the material I have here and the information that I've been provided as well, that St Bart's is a recognised provider with a long history of provision and management of specific purpose housing, and they're a good neighbour, has already been indicated in the area. I don't see any issues in relation to the concerns that have been raised, and as I say, I'd like to acknowledge that they have been duly considered, but in this instance I'm satisfied that the proposal, both in terms of its land use as well as its form and scale in that context, is appropriate. Those are my comments. I move back to the mover, Member Deputy Lord Mayor Bruce Reynolds, to close the debate.
Yeah, look, I don't really have any further comment other than echoing the additional comments that have been made. Potentially with parking, I think that certainly cities do have a continual Rubik's Cube of problems when it comes to parking. In this case, I think the applicant is probably best served to know what they will need and require. And generally, a lot of the applications are around people needing more parking. So this is an interesting, I guess, difference. But further to that, I can't wait till this all starts turning and people start moving in. So thank you very much for the application.
Members, the debate has been closed. We are now going to the vote inclusive of amendment. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously with a minute taken. At this juncture, it is 10:05 a.m. and I would like to thank members from the City of Bruce Reynolds. Raj, thank you for your participation, as well as the officers and applicant. You will now be changing membership for Part C.
Thank you.
Good to go. Good morning. I can see online Ramaji Naru. Okay. You see and hear clearly from where you are.
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Now, I have present here, as part of your team, only 2 people listed. David, David, can you pronounce your surname?
Majorana?
Mayorama, thank you, and Lena
Yetchman.
Yetchman.
Maybe difficult.
Yeah,
for
pretty
you.
good.
And, sorry, who else do we have present?
I was going to introduce them as part of this, but I guess I'll just jump ahead. That's Lurika, the Director of Finance and Resources of Wesley College, and Ross Barron, the Headmaster of Wesley College, and they'll be here for any questions.
Thank you, and Norika, I didn't get your surname.
Story.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome to today's meeting.
We have someone join online as well. He advised me that he's online.
I can't see anybody else online at this present stage.
Yeah, Luke, yeah.
Will he need to speak or?
Maybe if there's questions pertaining to project management, but otherwise maybe.
And Luke's surname is?
Brunner, Brunner, B-R-U-N-N-E-R,
And Luke is?
project manager.
Thank you. I still can't see him online.
He hasn't got his camera on.
Oh, he hasn't got his camera on. Okay, that probably answers that question then.
Hi everyone.
Hello, Luke. Can you see and hear us clearly?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And it's Luke Brunner, is it, or
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, Brunner.
Brunner? Thank you. Members, we will now continue on with our meeting. It is 10:08 a.m. and we are now starting Part C of our agenda. We have present for today's meeting in the room to my immediate left, Member John Song. To my immediate left here, Deputy Presiding Member Clayton High. My name is Francesca Lafanti. And we also have with us online is technical officers from the City of South Perth, Ramaji Naru and Courtney Wynn, as well as applicants involved in the meeting today. Members, can I have a show of hands that you have duly considered all matters in relation to Part C of the agenda and Part C related material? That is unanimous for the minute taker. There are some disclosures of interest in relation to the item. Member Bronwyn Ward has an impartiality interest. It is listed as part of the material as son attends Wesley College, and participation in this meeting she is not participating in this meeting as determined by the DAP Executive Director. Members, I invite anyone to declare any further interest. Are there any other interests in relation to this matter? There are no other interests for the minute taker. We will now move forward to the item for us today, which is at 40 Coode Street, South Perth, Aquatic Centre additions to the school educational establishment. As you are aware, there is a 3-minute presentation. We have one presentation being presented today, and then they will go to questions from the panel members. As you are already probably well aware, panel members can ask questions to any of those present, so thank you for all who are present in the room, as well as Luke online. I'm going to hand over to yourself, David and Lena, to go through your presentation.
Just see when that comes up. Perfect. Thank you to the members for awarding me a chance to address the DAP today. I was going to introduce those who are with me, but I've done that, so if there's any questions to any of us, we're happy to answer those. And firstly, we would like to express our support for the favourable RAR from the City of South Perth. We value the support, and it is to replace the existing swimming pool to provide water sport facilities commensurate with the community's expectations. However, we would like to address the recommended condition 5, particularly in response to the city. And I am aware that DAP members have seen our written submission, so I will take this opportunity to just outline our concerns. Firstly, Wesley College understands and supports the intent of the policy and the provision of public art for creating a sense of place and also celebrating the city's identity and character. However, in this instance, condition 5 does not appear to fairly relate to this development. I'll get there. Sorry about that. Maybe just. Apologies. Okay. Wesley College is currently in the process of redeveloping their sporting facilities as part of the Centenary Project, and this was approved in 2023 with a similar public art condition. And as part of the implementation of this approval, Wesley College has developed a well-considered comprehensive public art delivery piece. Please click. Thank you. The artwork concept seeks to honour the rich history of the area's Whadjuk Noongar country and was developed through various workshops. The artwork will be displayed across the facade of the new Centenary building, and the concept has been approved by the City of South Perth because it meets the intent of the policy. Please click. As can be seen, Wesley College fully embraces the art contribution as per the city's policy and is currently underway with delivering an artwork piece to honour that rich history and bring the community together. Therefore, we struggle to understand the reimposition of the condition on a sole monetary value. Whilst it is a project with significant value, the Aquatic Centre is merely a replacement of the existing swimming pool and pool pump facilities because they are at the end of their lives. Imposing another condition of $120,000 contribution seems ad hoc, and we kindly request that the DAP members consider the broader works and the art delivery project that is currently underway at Wesley College. In our view, the objective of the policy is not to be applied as financial pragmatism, and it appears unreasonable to apply it solely based on a trigger of monetary value. In this case, the comprehensive artwork delivered as part of the Centenary Project should be acknowledged as the intent of the policy is already being delivered by Wesley College. The inclusion of another public art contribution doesn't reflect a holistic approach in delivering the objectives of the policy. Please click. And therefore, we request that the DAP exercises its discretion and removes condition 5 from the DA approval, or alternatively adds an advice note that this has been delivered under a different DA. Thank you for your time, and should you have any questions, we're all open to answer these.
Thank you. Before we go to questions, my initial question for you is, have you seen the city's response, R13 response, in relation to condition 5? And do you have any additional comments as part of your presentation in regards to their response? They've talked about this, and they've referred to this is, and the reasons why they say it's separate. Could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, I think David is probably...
Great, either one of you.
Yeah, I'm happy to respond. Well, we did review the city's response. We appreciate both the query through the Regulation 13 request and the city providing a further response. We didn't feel that the city's response necessarily went to the heart of the matter that we raised. We do understand the way the policy operates. We do understand that it is a policy that is focused primarily on a trigger that's based on the financial value of the construction cost of the development. We didn't think the city's response directly responded to the matters we are raising. We didn't feel that it necessarily satisfied ourselves. So there is this nexus between the application of the public art contribution and the proposal that's before the DAP. So whilst we do appreciate that there was an attempt to respond to the query raised, we're not satisfied in that it doesn't change our view on the appropriateness of the condition.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions to the applicant? Member John Syme.
Just two questions. You mentioned in the documentation somewhere that this is funded by philanthropic bequest. Is that right? Could you just go through the funding of it
Larissa, is that something you'd like to speak to?
So the Centenary project has had support from, the Wesley community. So there is that is what is enabling us to proceed with this project, is a support for that.
We'd also made the point that the specific delivery of the aquatic centre piece was a result of a charitable donation. Perhaps that's the query that Ms. Symes talking to.
I'm getting to how tight the funds are actually, is the subtext of the question.
So yes, we have a fixed budget for the project. So yes, it is it is a key component for the funding of this project.
It is significant, and probably 90% of the cost of this project is through that philanthropic donation.
Are there other funds to draw on if the construction budget goes over? The other one is, I understand the pool is open to the community for large parts of the day. I mean, that will continue.
There's a learn to swim program in terms term 1 and term 4, and traditionally 1,200 to 1,300 young people are involved in that. Probably 90% are not Wesley students.
It's open in the mornings and in the afternoons as well. So
and we have members of the public who use it for their own recreation and swimming.
that will continue?
Thank you. I have one question. It's a slight follow-up of the last point about community use of the pool. Could you speak a little bit further? I am familiar that a number of independent schools also provide community interaction of their pool. Can you talk a little bit further about the pool and how the community is able to interact with it? You speak a little bit.
I mean, for me, I've worked at a lot of really good schools, but Wesley is unique as far as being part of the South Perth village. All the facilities, the sporting, are the most open and well used of any school I've actually seen. So it's a real strength and actually makes the college a better place, but just because that interaction with families and students, not just Wesley people, but also it's a resource for the community. And it's a resource that's not just used for 10 hours a day, it's actually used for from 5:30 in the morning through until about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So the intention is to actually continue to do that because it is a strength of the college. The way that it works is for students, for phys ed, for sport, is the number one priority, but that learn to swim program in the afternoon, as well as recreation swimmers, and as well as squad swimming outside of the college, use it throughout the day. So traditionally in the morning from about 6 a.m. through to about 8 a.m, external people are using the facility. And then during the day, there's some times where people can come and do their lap swimming. And then after sport training finishes about 5 through until about 9:30, it's used for squad training and recreational training as well. The way people activate that is they join the Wesley College Sports Club, and then they pay a user every time they swim, or it's a monthly fee.
Thank you. That was my only question. If there are no other questions from panel members, thank you for your material. We will now move to officers from the city. Officers from the city, Ramaju and Courtney, would you like to speak to this item and any responses to what you've heard in today's meeting?
Our response is as per the R30.
Members, are there any questions to city officers? Yes, Member Clayton Heim.
Could you explain a little to me condition 8 in terms of ground levels? I was trying to find some reference to it.
That condition was requested by Heritage Council.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why we added it as a condition. Yeah.
How does it impact the development?
Well, the development is in close proximity to, I guess, the foundations and walls of the heritage listed building. So we assume that they have recommended this condition just so that it's mitigated against potential damp issues.
Okay. And condition 10, all works are to be carefully undertaken. How do you judge that?
Again, from the State Heritage Office has recommended that wording. However, I guess the judgment would be, did the applicant or the construction management of the site take appropriate measures to use a methodology and things like that, which wouldn't impact the building.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Members, are there any other questions? I have a question to officers. You've heard additional material from the applicant today's meeting in relation to condition 5. Do you have any further comments that you would like to make in relation to that, noting we have had your R13 commentary?
Not really. I mean, obviously, public art local planning policy is a common policy across all local governments, and it's usually based on a monetary value of the works. And if this component of the overall works was included in the previous development application, well, the cost of works would have been higher, and therefore the public art contribution would have been taken into account at that time. So we don't agree that you should apply for a first development application, and that's it in terms of the public art requirement. You can lodge as many applications as you like, and each one will have to be considered on its merits against the planning framework.
Thank you. In the context of the two things, the context of the work that we've been provided material today as part of our, and we've also received it as part of our document from the school in relation to public art, as well as, that's part one of the question, they all read to the actual question I'm getting to. This proposal is for full central site. Noting you have a policy about public art and payment, does the city have an expectation of the use of this? I'm interested in understanding what your expectation would be in the context of public art relative to this school in this location, and the application we have before us is a pool central to the site.
Yes, the policy does require that public artwork, if it's to be provided on site, is visible from the public realm, being the street. So it is our view that they could provide additional public art on the site. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the swimming pool area, or they could alternatively provide cash in lieu.
Thank you. Members, are there any other questions to city officers? Thank you. If there are no further questions to city officers, we will now move to the agenda. We have an application before us, a recommendation at the beginning of the RA. Is there a mover of the RA recommendation? It is moved, Member John Syme. Is there a seconder for the RA recommendation? It is seconded, Member Clayton Hyme. Would the mover like to speak to the item?
Yes, thank you. Look, this is at one level a fairly straightforward application. The pool is at the end of its life. There is a need to expand that to a water polo, include a water polo pool. I think all of the issues regarding its interaction with the heritage building, heritage components of the college have been really well organised. So I think at that level it's a fairly straightforward issue. So I think we can approve it fairly easily. I would like to move an amendment at this stage, which is to delete condition 5.
At this juncture, we are going to Amendment 1, delete condition 5. Is there a seconder for the... It is seconded, Member Clayton Hyme. Would the mover like to speak to condition 1?
Yes, look...
Sorry, to Amendment 1.
Yes. Look, there are a couple of things at play here, I think. First of all, I think it is important that to regard this as simply a replacement of an existing pool. I think that applying the full monetary value to a project such as this is probably stretching the public art policy well beyond its limit. I also note that mean, the public art policies have been around since about the late 1980s, early 1990s, and the 1% number is an arbitrary number. It's an entirely arbitrary number. I think the issue really is what gets delivered on the ground and the art itself. And I think we've got plenty of evidence that in this case, as part of a larger project, the college is contributing to the public realm in a fairly comprehensive way, and I must say in a fairly sensitive way. I think also I would take account of the fact that the City of South Perth is not pursuing its own swimming pool project, which was potential a year or two ago, and the community use of this facility is actually very important. There is a shortage of pools in this general area, actually, and the community use of this pool is actually a very important component of the not only of this college itself, but also for the general community in broad terms. So I think it would be entirely unreasonable in this case to apply what is actually a fairly arbitrary public art number to a project such as this. So I think that we should Condition 5.
Would the seconder like to speak to Amendment 1?
Yes, thank you. I fully concur with Member Syme. My particular issue here is the application of a policy just because the policy is there, and I think there needs to be some consideration around what impact that policy has and how this facility is being used. And I'm very pleased with the strong community connection with the facility, but also, as Member Syme mentioned, this is a replacement pool. So I think in this instance it would be very, very hard on us to impose the public art policy. Thank you.
Thank you. I concur with the comments that have been said in relation to Amendment 1. I do support deletion. From my perspective, the material we have in front of us, as well as being provided today, indicates that the school has not only provided a level of public art, but as part of a previous proposal. But more importantly, the school has a policy or behaviour of being open and welcoming to the community, and it's not just for the pool as been indicated at today's meeting. It includes some of the other facilities on site. I think that is commendable for a school to provide that interaction with the community. So I think that's one, a positive. Two, there is heritage protection within that school as well that is also being upheld and being valued. That's also a positive in terms of the benefit to the area, and from my perspective that goes a long way to supporting development of this nature. And three, as there's already been indicated, the pool itself is a partial replacement for what's there, as well as expansion of the amenities, which is what we would expect in our current expectations for schooling and for the services they provide for the children at that school, the students at that school, as well as providing the surrounding community to benefit from that. So from my perspective, I support the deletion of this condition, or for this proposal, for these reasons. Those are my comments. I move back to the mover of the amendment.
Nothing further, thanks.
There's no further comments or right of reply. We are going to the vote. All those in favour? Is carried unanimously. Would you like to continue speaking?
No, thank you, Deb.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, look, it's a tight site, but well designed within that tight site, having regard to the heritage buildings around it. It obviously works well there, and I really have no further comment to make other than I support the proposal.
Thank you. I will speak to the proposal. I've already indicated pretty much the same comments that I'm going to say about this. Schools, as expected from today's community, provide a range of services and facilities to the students. The maximum opportunity to get students to interact in a physical sense is positive. We will have significant commentary around the lack of movement in schools, and I think that is positive in that particular sense, as well as to the broader community. has already been indicated it's respectful in its design and location, siting within the same complex, respecting the heritage that sits around it. As far as I'm concerned, this is an appropriate development, and I don't really have any issues in relation to its design or its tightness of its location within its site. I think it's commendable that the school has worked hard to get the reuse of that space, which has an identity for an aquatic facility, and retained it on that same site. There are other sites on the school that potentially might have been easier from a construction perspective, but to maintain it within the core of the school, I think it's commendable. Those are my comments. Would the mover of the substantive motion like a right of reply?
No, there's not a lot more to say, thank you, except I think there's probably a lot of people in the swimming community that would be keen to the project to get underway and for them to get back in the pool, so good luck.
Thank you. Right of reply has been had. We are now going to the vote on the substantive, including the amendment. All those in favour? Thank you. It is carried unanimously. We move back to the agenda. There are no Form 2 applications in relation to this part of the agenda, nor are there any SAT reconsiderations. We do have items listed in Part B, however I will not speak to any of those, and accordingly I close today's meeting at 10:31 a.m. Thank you for your participation.